one of the other instructions I hear given about the shoulder blades, or shoulders in general, which I think is unfortunate, and it loops back then to where we began with the spine, is that if someone is in some way collapsed in their spine, which is overdoing the thoracic curve, not overdoing my cervical curve, and I don't have to even do it that much. I could do it just a little bit. And that we use the shoulders as postural structures. And so we get told to, this is the other reason I think we get told to pull the shoulders back, which is that we pull the shoulders back to pull the spine up. However, if I'm looking for pathways of support, and if part of what I'm looking for is the spine to be a support, if the idea is that the spine is the axis around which I can find all of this movement, and that my shoulder girdle is actually not what helps me stand up, but if my shoulder girdle is instead what helps me engage with the environment, then using my shoulders to bring my spine up might mean two things. But one thing is that if I let my shoulders go, my spine will go back. The other thing is that if I'm collapsed in my center and I pull my shoulders back to pull my spine up, I'm still collapsed in my center, but I've pulled myself up from back here. Yeah. So I think that where the shoulders end up, it is a symptom, and it's certainly something to look at. If the shoulders are protracted and depressed and dropped forward and all of that as part of this pattern, worth looking at and going, oh, shoulders, they're forward. But it doesn't mean that the thing you see is the thing to fix, because the underlying cause of the shoulders being forward is not a shoulder issue in this case, but the fact that I'm not in my spine. So I think that the place to start would be to see if I find my spine, if I find the bodies of my vertebra, my thoracic curve and my cervical curve, that then my shoulders are fine. And they might be a little forward. I've certainly had people say that's too far forward, pull your shoulders back further. To me, this is too far back in my shoulders, because I'm holding them up from back here. And I'm undoing my thoracic curve a little bit. If I find the thoracic curve, the cervical curve, if I find it, doesn't matter the curves, the bodies of my vertebra, if I have the sense of my spine, then my shoulders are fine. They're in a fine place, and then they're available to respond to whatever I want to do, rather than my shoulders being part of what stands me up, but collapsing on the inside. So I think that that when we use the shoulders to do things that we mean to do in the spine as our first step, as opposed to as our last step, we're skipping over the awareness we could have in our spine. So I'm thinking in this case about doing things like upward dog, or places where we might use our arms, our shoulder girdles, to help us find some extension. If I leave my spine passive and use my arms to push me up, when my spine's hanging out, I will get my spine into some kind of extension. But I think, no one else has to think this. Just have to listen, because you're a captive audience at the moment. That if we find what we can in the spine, and then we feed our hands in through that pathway, hands to tail, and we add it into whatever we have in the spine, then we're integrating our limbs into something that's already alive, instead of using the limbs to move our spine around, to move around this unconscious thing. Yeah? Does that make sense?